Welcome to our world. Won't you come on in? Waiting just for you. Welcome to our world.
Okay. What are we doing today, Samantha?
So today, hello everyone.
Welcome.
And by hello, okay. And by everyone, I mean to our at least 13 subscribers. Woo!
What?
Yeah, between Spotify and Apple, it's at least 13.
Okay.
But then on like the other platforms, I don't know how to see.
13 dozen.
No, 13,000
Okay.
subscribers.
Just wanted to make sure. Yeah.
No,
okay, good.
I can't see. I haven't tried. I'm sure I
Okay.
can see, but like on Pandora and iHeartRadio and all that,
Yep.
I haven't tried to see how many subscribers we have. But between Spotify and Apple, we have at least 13.
Wow.
So, most of those are
sounds
family
unlucky.
members and friends.
Sounds unlucky.
But yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Please get someone else to subscribe so we don't have 13.
I wonder how many friends. If I had any friends, I bet you.
Okay. But so today we are going to be doing a listener feedback kind of thing.
Yeah. I've been looking forward to this.
So I'm going to read some of the comments that have been sent in. I'm not going to use any names or anything because I don't know if people would be okay with me using their names. So I'm just not going to be specific about it, but obviously you guys will know who you are. Okay, so we are going to, with this listener feedback, we're throwing it back to previous episodes, obviously. So I'm just going to read them in the order that they're on my laptop here. So comment number one.
So exciting.
I know. Comment number one. This is about our episode on AI. A listener wrote in. Okay. Anyway,
Okay, go ahead.
A listener wrote in and said, in the grand scheme of things, maybe it's better. Well, I'm not going to, when I'm reading these, try to fix them grammatically. Okay.
Please don't.
In the grand scheme.
Unless it's a comment related to the grammar.
To the grammar one,
episode.
which we don't have any because no one cares
Okay.
about that.
Yeah, that's true.
In the grand scheme of things, maybe it's better and introduces new jobs, but try telling that to the person who actually did lose their job. Companies aren't going to be like, okay, so we're replacing you with AI, but we're going to teach you how to use it and manage it. They're going to say, this was a tough decision, but here we are. Good luck on your future endeavors. And now they have no job. No one wants to hire them because they're old and only did one thing their whole life, so they don't know anything else. Maybe it's on them for not picking a better job or not expanding their skill set, but seems like we care more about advancing in AI and being innovative than we do about actual people. Again, as a whole, it might be better for the population, but for the person directly competing against a computer, it sucks and is unfair and it's a losing battle, and they don't want to hear how this is better for everyone else.
Right. Here's the thing.
I agree with this.
I agree, and I hate to say and disagree. I agree with a caveat, or multiple caveats.
Okay, let's hear them.
Okay, well, one is, okay, and this has nothing to do with AI, but everybody has to remember that companies or even people, even if you work for one person, right? They're not in business to give people jobs.
Mm-hmm.
They're in business to make money.
Sure.
That's the bottom line, right? Whether it's owned by one person, a group of private people, or a publicly traded company, they're in business to make money. So I think, so that's one thing. The second thing is, I have to remember what the second thing is because I have a very short memory and I had them all in my head. But no, I think this is one of the reasons that over the next few years, there has to be some kind of a plan in place for all these people that will lose their jobs. And the thing is, it may not even be like that's true. There are people that maybe have had the same job or done the same thing their entire lives, and now all of a sudden that skill is no longer needed. I think that's going to be the case with a lot of people. So there has to be something. Then they have to be able to eat.
Well, I think
So that to me that's where like society or government will have to step in.
I mean, it does. With all this stuff, it makes me think about like inventions in the past. For example, when you went from horse-drawn carriages to cars and all of that,
Right.
what did that shift? I don't know. What did that shift look like in society? Were people asking these same questions? Like,
think they
we're going to
were.
lose our jobs and now what? And then, like you're saying, did we as a society actually try to plan for those people? Or were we just kind of like, this is going to happen and you guys either
Well,
get on board or...
you're out of a job. See, I think the only difference now, because I think that did happen, same thing with elevator operators,
Well, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I think that did happen. But the big difference now is it's just going to be multiplied 1,000 times,
Right.
because it's not just going to be one specific area. I mean, it's going to happen kind of like one job after another. But I don't know how long it will take, but eventually, if things keep going the way they look like they're going, it'll be, I mean, technically it'll pretty much be every job. So
Anyway,
this is my
did you-
one suggestion for people though, right now,
As an expert.
learn to garden, take up gardening, because if you have to eat, at least,
Okay. That's
Get-
super helpful.
well, yeah.
Okay. Did you see the whole strike with the
The one that just started.
yeah.
Yeah, for
I
the
can't
port.
think of the right word.
the
Yeah,
port
like the ports and all
workers,
that.
Yeah.
Did you see that one of their stipulations for like
I see
ending
that.
the strike
Yep.
is a guarantee that
Yep.
AI or robots or whatever won't replace them,
Yep.
which I think is insane.
Well, and I don't know if you remember this, but when the actors went on strike a little while ago, or was it the writers? Maybe it was screenwriters,
Well,
whatever. It was
both of them
somewhere in
went on strike.
Hollywood. They basically had the same kind of
Yeah.
clause, but I think it was a much shorter term.
It was
because they're saying like 10 years.
Well, yeah.
It's like, I mean, I'll be amazed if they go ahead and agree to that. And
How could you?
Well, even if they did, right? Even if they did, at the end of that 10 years, it's not going to be even debatable anymore.
No.
Because probably by that time, so they'll already have this technology like
Yeah.
ready to go, tested,
Yeah.
and it'll be like at the end of 10 years, they'll be like, okay, goodbye,
See ya.
and because on one hand, you could say it's almost like I'm holding a gun to your head, right? And this is a threat that if you don't do this, I'm
Mhm.
just walking off the job. And it's kind of like, I don't know. That's not the way a free market society is supposed to work.
No.
And I kind of come down on the side of a free market society, right? Like no one has to work for anyone else. There's not a requirement in society that you have to work for someone else. You can go and do whatever it is you want to do, and you can get your own customers. You can go buy a leaf blower and blow leaves off people's lawns if they
Right.
if they want it. You can cut people's grass. You can grow a garden and sell fruit. I
Yeah,
mean, you can do a million different things.
On that note, it always makes me, anytime I see any group of people striking, and I mean, when I worked for Disney, I was part of my section, like food and beverage was part of, and maybe no, I don't think attractions was, I don't remember, but food and beverage was definitely like unionized.
Mhm.
And so, but regardless, I'm thinking about how anytime someone goes on strike, all I'm thinking is, are there not people, this sounds so bad, maybe saying it like this, but that would be willing to work in the current conditions.
Right.
Why is it so important to
Right.
keep, and you think there are a lot of reasons, obviously, like loyalty to a company and all that stuff. And you have
Right.
like, what's the word? Like for universities, you have people that are tenured and all that. And,
Right.
and I'm jumping all over the place here, but my point being, there are always people that need jobs.
Right.
And so I kind of don't understand how strikes actually work sometimes.
Yeah. Well, especially when you have a lot of immigration, and I'm not talking, it could be legal,
No.
legal, illegal, it doesn't matter, right? When you have a lot of immigration, right, those people are coming looking for jobs. So they're not as picky, I guess you would say. And I
Right.
kind of I understand both sides of the argument. Like, I don't like the idea of these large corporations basically, whether it's colluding by the legal definition or whether it's more or less, there are three organizations, they're kind of like on the same page
Right.
with what they're going to pay or whatever. So I don't like the idea of them doing that. But then also if you have a union and the union is now kind of doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Let's all collude together and say we're not going to work
Yeah.
unless you pay us this much and you give us this and you give us this and you give us this.
We could do a whole
So it's kind of
episode on
like,
unions.
I have mixed feelings on the whole thing. I mean, I know I told you this before, but one of my first jobs, I was just so frustrated when I found out, when I found out that, like, I was a material handler and I found out that come time for raises, we all got the same raise, and I knew I worked way harder. There were only two of us that
All
I
right,
worked on the same
anyway.
shift, but the guy, I worked way harder than him.
This is not an episode on
and we
unions.
still
We're
got
moving
the same-
ahead. We are moving
Yeah, go
ahead.
ahead.
We'll do an
Move on,
episode where you can
I can
air
keep
your
complaining.
grievances
That's a
on,
grievance. Go
on
ahead.
unions and all
Go
that. I did forget an important statistic, which is that our downloads per country over the past 2 months, this is what I was going to tell you yesterday, 99% of our downloads are in the United States. The
What?
other 1%, unknown.
Wow. So it's probably the
That's so
United States.
exciting. It's probably just someone that didn't actually answer
Yeah.
the question. Okay. We actually have another AI conversation one.
Okay.
Okay. I think as far as the AI conversation goes, I agree with what Jim was saying. If overall the productivity and quality of life goes up because of AI, then why complain? Like, yeah, obviously, in an individual basis, if I lose my job to AI, then that sucks. But also, if I can't do my job better than AI, then I have no one to blame but myself. So I'm not going to be like bitter at the world or whatever. I think the danger comes in when you start to ask whether companies, or the government especially, are replacing human jobs with AI because AI is truly the better option versus is just the cheaper, or is better for them in some other way because then society isn't actually benefiting from it. I think the customer service thing you were talking about is an example of that. Most of us don't find the AI agents helpful when we actually need something, but the company doesn't care because it's saving them money, at least in the short term.
I think here, okay, this is the perfect example of where competition fixes things. Because if you have enough companies, right? Say you have 6 companies and they all, I don't know, they're all cell phone companies. And one of them, their customer support is terrible. And it could be because they have AI that's not ready, or that could be for other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully over time, people are going to realize as soon as they have a problem and they try to get customer service and they can't get through to anyone, or they can't get an answer and they get frustrated, they're going to switch to another company, right? The thing is, the AI that's in place right now, I haven't come across one, and I haven't really looked, but I haven't come across one like that's a customer service type line that's using the current version or current level of AI,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, it's to the point now where in most interactions, probably, you would not know that it wasn't a person.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard to say until some of the newer versions start to get rolled out.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as, the whole AI thing, so hopefully in the end, it will make people's lives better. And I think that's the part that if it makes lives better, and if we go from, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job, what am I going to do, to, wait a minute, I don't have to work anymore.
No, but I think, and you mentioned that point in
Right.
the
In the episode, right?
when we talked about it. But I think the point to focus on here with the comment is, what is the goal for the creation of AI? Is it actually to make people's lives easier, or is it just because they know that once it's in place and once the processes are, like, all the kinks are worked out, it's a cheaper method for them?
I genuinely think the people that are creating AI, Okay. The people that are working on it, and by, I mean the vast, vast majority are doing it because they think this is going to cure cancer.
I think
this is going to make our people's lives so much better.
I think that's an extremely idealistic viewpoint to have. I think
Well, I'm
especially
telling
when
you-
you were talking earlier about the goal of companies and the free market and a capitalistic society. I don't, and I'm not saying those people don't exist. I think those people definitely exist that just genuinely want to make the world a better place and help humanity. But I think it would be very wrong not to acknowledge that there are people that are just motivated by
greed.
the money factor.
Well,
yeah.
But even in that case, I still don't think, and this is sort of going back to capitalism, I still don't think there's a better system, right? I don't think people looking out for themselves creates a worse system than if we all said, let's have a socialist government. Right. So I know that's getting, I don't want to get off the subject.
When you talk about that, then we get into the whole concept of like the invisible hand and Adam Smith and all that, which is that for people that don't know economics, which is most people in the world, if we're being honest with ourselves, we'll have some economics episodes for sure, because I'm getting real annoyed.
We have to talk about, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt,
the
but
concept of that is that people are inherently, their main goal is for themselves. They do things for themselves to better their own life or get themselves ahead. And the invisible hand is that in acting in ways to help themselves, they as a byproduct of their own work are affecting and helping other people.
Right.
So you think about, like, I don't know, anything with AI, you think, okay, well, maybe this person's just started doing stuff with this because they were trying to make their own life easier.
Right.
And obviously, as a result, here we are, the invisible hand, it's affecting everybody else.
Well, and most entrepreneurs, right? You could say that. You could say, well, they just want to run their own company and they want to become unbelievably rich. Take somebody like Jeff Bezos, right?
Yeah.
Now, he's one of the richest guys in the world, but the byproduct is we have Amazon.com.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Okay, people love that, right?
All right, we need to
It's
move
the
on.
same thing with Elon Musk with his companies.
Is.
So anyway, go.
Those are excellent examples. But yes, we need to move on. We'll have episodes about all of this stuff. So now we have a reader or listener comment from our episode about conspiracy theories. Speaking of conspiracy theories, I just saw this on TikTok that apparently the damage from Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans was mainly because the city wouldn't spend the money to get the flood levees fixed prior to the hurricane. So the flooding and deaths were mainly from that because they all broke, which is insane. And it's not even a conspiracy theory. There's actual proof of it all. They said they literally left people in the Superdome in the city to die. And there's like a documentary and stuff about it.
Yeah, and I haven't seen the documentary. And at first, when we got that comment, I kind of read it wrong. And then after I read it the right way, it's like, okay, I don't think the levy thing is kind of like a conspiracy theory even. I think it's like after the fact, everyone agreed that, yeah, the levies failed, obviously.
Right.
If they had put the work into that project and spent the money on it, there's odds are they wouldn't have it definitely wouldn't have been as bad. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But like anything else, it's easy after the fact, after there's a plane crash, it's easy to say, well, we should have had an extra inspection for that plane. So really, to me, the question is, okay, what the money that could have been spent on that, what else was it spent on? Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's basically, and I haven't watched that documentary yet, but I mean, the only thing I saw, and I'm just saying it's by Spike Lee, and he comes down on the left pretty hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think any documentary, you have to look at the bias of the person that created the documentary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but I haven't looked at it yet, just mostly because that happened so long ago. And I have to be kind of interested in it.
Yeah,
and I think it's a 4-part or at least 3-part.
I don't know. I think with a lot of stuff, and I know nothing about this. Obviously, I was a child when this happened, and I haven't done any research on it.
I have a
But I think I think with a lot of stuff, and even after our conspiracy theories episode, I was thinking more about this. I think you can, if you're looking for specific evidence to support your point, you can find that
Right.
anywhere with anything. Like you can find little cracks in something, and that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the truth or that's the whole picture. You're literally just kind of cherry picking the quote unquote facts that fit the like view that you're trying to portray.
Yeah, you
So I
back
think that's
into
exactly. So that's something interesting. Okay, so going back to, and this is going to be a controversial take, I fear, but going back to when we talked about the bell curve. At the end of that episode, your example was with the sports teams and how people, whatever, I'll just read the comment. Jim actually had an amazing mic drop at the end. We accept that professional sports teams have the best possible players on the roster, even though the vast majority are black, but then racism comes into question if you look at the coaches, or basically any other group within any other profession, honestly. It's wild to me that every year we still see a post from ESPN and everywhere else that's like, a record 15 NFL starting quarterbacks this year are black. Soon it's going to be all 32, and if they're the best players, then good for them. But I also don't think that ESPN is going to celebrate the minority at that point if some year there are like 3 white starting quarterbacks again.
Right. I agree. Obviously, I agree with that. And that's my frustration about where we are as a society with race. Like, I feel like, okay, first of all, we cannot change the past.
Mm-hmm.
We can't, right? We can all look back and think, God, that was terrible. But many of us, regardless of our race, never had, at least as far as we know, going back, to the, going back many generations, had, say, slave owners in our family. Okay, people who maybe are black.
This isn't about race.
I know, but I'm making a point. Many of them never had slaves in their family. Okay, so it gets kind of crazy like that. My only point is we should be at a point where we just agree that the best person should get the job.
I agree, but so I think when I was re-listening to that episode, I don't know that I made it clear that is my overall belief. The best person should get the job. Where we were obviously having a debate about like the diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. My point was, obviously I said about, I don't think companies do it the way that it's intended or the way that it would actually be helpful. And I think at the end of the day, because your example was when you're in a plane, you just want the best person and you don't care if that person's male, female, what color, what race, you don't care. You just want the best person to fly the plane.
Right.
And I think the whole point is so that you get the best person to fly the plane. That's the whole point. It's because these, I don't want to say it like this. I don't know how else to say it without making it a whole thing. Like the marginalized groups like that have historically not been represented in certain types of industries or whatever. Maybe those are the best people for the job, but we don't know that because they're not getting the interview or they're not even getting like a foot in the door. And so that's my only point is the intention of the DEI initiatives, that should be the goal, is to just make sure that everybody's, let's say, for example, getting an interview. And then from there, whoever's the best gets the job. You shouldn't have quotas where it's like we need so many women in our company or so many that is wrong.
I get what you're.
But to have the best person for the job, you need to get everybody to be able to get into the room to get to the job.
I just feel like now the way most companies, I'll say, implement it, it's sort of like you're guilty until proven innocent. In other words, we're assuming that if we don't do this, we will automatically exclude whatever, like you said, marginalized group. Like if we're talking about, if there's a system that's based on economic, level, like in other words, if you have a poor area, it makes sense that you're going to try to lift that area up, okay? Not because it's any one race or another, okay, that's irrelevant, right? You want to lift those people up because I think the thing is, poor, like white people can be as marginalized as poor black people, right?
Yeah, I didn't even say anything about that.
I know, but my point is my issue. I guess my issue comes down to how do you define a marginalized group, right?
It's not even about the marginalized groups. I was just going based off the example that we had used in the other episode. I'm just saying it's not fine. You don't. Let's not even use the term marginalized group since you clearly don't like that term.
Well, no,
that's
I'm
fine.
trying to figure out what you're saying.
But then any group.
Okay.
The point is that you want everybody, no matter where they come from, what color, what race, what gender, none of it matters. The point is that they all have equality of opportunity
Right.
to get that job. And we don't have that right now.
Well, I'm going to go back to the same thing that I said before. To me, competition fixes that.
It doesn't.
Because if you have if you have multiple companies,
it
and
doesn't, and this is a separate episode.
If you have one company who's hiring the best person,
no,
and you have another company
You're
that's
wrong.
excluding a certain group,
you're wrong.
Okay, for whatever reason.
Okay, let's have this conversation in a future episode because I disagree. All right.
That's my point about guilty until proven innocent, though.
No, that's not what's happening.
You're
here.
saying no. If we don't put these rules in place for a company,
I'm not saying
then
we need
you're going to
rules
make the
in
wrong
place.
decision.
We shouldn't even need. But this, we can't have this conversation
This is gonna
right
be a new
now.
episode.
This is
Go
what I'm
ahead.
saying. Okay, so this other comment is from our episode on. This is when we were talking about like retirement and me looking for a job and how I think the job market is stupid. Comment. After applying to hundreds of jobs with no luck, I finally got a better job. Thankfully, I knew someone at this company who got me in. And I always had the attitude of, if you just give me a chance, I know I could do it and do it well. But how the heck do you get the chance? And it's also worth noting it's usually the older generation doing the hiring. The same generation that told us to go to school to get a better job. I was also told a few times I'm competing against kids coming right out of school, aka there was more value in these students than there was in me, a former student, grad student, and experienced professional. How does that make sense? But also, I do think the generation after us has a sense of entitlement.
Well,
which I agree with all of that.
Well, and the thing is, you got to keep in mind, and I know this sounds very obvious because it is, but like, say, my generation wasn't the first one either. So we kind of felt the same way in a lot of ways, right? As far as, well, you just do this, go to college, do this, you get a good job, right? And obviously, I can't put myself in your shoes, right? And say, well, no, you just have to work hard and you'll get ahead, right?
That's not how it works.
I'm not going to agree with that, but no, here's my point. I'm not going to agree with that, but I won't disagree because my point is I can't put myself in your shoes.
No, you can't. And I think the thing is, since you brought up, obviously, I have no idea how difficult it was for you and your generation to get jobs and all this, but the big difference I would say now is technology. You have such a wider, first of all, you have so many working from home jobs where you get applicants from all over.
Mhm.
So the pool itself has expanded
For those jobs, yeah.
in like exponentially pretty much.
No, I agree with that.
And then, but even jobs that are like localized, they're much more, instead of, before the internet, I don't know how you found a job. What? How did you find a job before the internet?
Newspaper.
The newspaper. That's
You
what I'm
looked
saying.
in the newspaper,
And so
or you
only-
went around and you just visited places and asked if you could fill an application out.
But so my point there is, it was a very location-based, local, regional thing. You weren't looking for a job unless there was like a specific company that you knew you wanted to work for where you knew it was located.
Right.
You weren't going to go like, to the next state and randomly be like, I'm going to move here and I'm going to find a job somehow. Or
Well,
like
some people did.
Well, some people did, but my point is like now, if I wanted to move to like, I don't know, wherever, I'm going to look online, see what the job market's like, and then make that decision. I'm not just going to move somewhere and then be like, hope I can find a job in the newspaper.
But I mean, there are, I know, doing the newspaper, but there are job fairs too. But there are people that do that. There are people that,
I
maybe
know,
they save up enough money that they know it'll carry them through
I'm
for
just
a few
saying,
months, and then they get a job.
the big
The only
difference
thing I
is
was gonna say,
it is in how we find jobs and,
Right.
and how the pool has
Right.
expanded so much.
right, but you could flip that too, and you could say you're right. Okay, if it's a work from home job, you're competing with everyone, not even just around the country. You could technically be competing with people around the world. But also, you could say, but you have the opportunity to work for companies that are not local, because if it's a work from home job and it's a company like in New York City, you could still get that job living in Florida, right? So it's kind of,
Okay, another comment on this.
yeah.
You aren't guaranteed a job because of your degree, but if you're told you need a degree, so then you get the degree and then you can't find a job, that's annoying and we feel like we were lied to. So maybe that's a sense of entitlement, but it's also just we were doing as we were told, only to find out it was useless, and now we have to pay all this debt. Same with the master's degree. Master's degree equals more money. When that doesn't happen, once again, it's like, okay, cool. And as for job loyalty, when I was in school, I was told companies love to see job loyalty. So I stayed at this company for like 7 to 8 years, and no one cared. The people who are hopping around every 2 years are the ones getting better jobs and pay raises. And I'm stuck at this company for 3 years longer than I wanted to be because no one cared about my experience or loyalty.
I agree with everything in that comment
Cool.
because it's true. It's true. I mean, loyalty to a company, I don't know. It's like you have to sort of play it by ear and see how loyal is the company really to you.
Yep.
In most cases,
Which you don't know.
yeah. In most cases, it's silly to get hung up on that. Now, should you jump from one job to another for like, I don't know, a 2% raise? No, I unless there's some other reason why you're doing that, I don't think that makes sense. But at the same time, to just stay at the same company, like I said, I would not do it again. If I could go back, I would have probably maybe 5 years, definitely 10 years, somewhere in there. At some point, I would have been like, you know what? I feel kind of stagnant, not necessarily as far as money's concerned, but everything else. I kind of feel like things are getting stagnant. I'm going to look someplace else.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Cool.
What was the first? Read the
This
first
was
part of
fun.
that again.
Oh, I got out of it already. I'm not going to read it. You'll have to re-listen to the episode
Yeah.
to respond again.
No, there was something that when you were reading the beginning of that, there was something I was thinking about. But
Well, this was super fun, and now I'm just aggravated thinking about
yeah,
the economy. So
yeah.
I'm going to go eat lunch probably.
Well, we have to start making a list of other topics.
We should. And an upcoming episode will definitely be why we should return to a barter economy from someone with an economics degree.
Yes. Bartering money.
No.
Okay.
Hope you guys all have a great weekend. I'm going to go make myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Wait.
And cry.
And we're not live. We're still live. Goodbye. Not working. Wait a minute.
Wait another minute.
Okay.
Delete. Oh, and we need. You should be recording because we need outtakes.
I am recording.
No. Great. Now I sound like. Now I sound fake. Well, there goes the neighborhood.
There goes Christmas.
What were we talking about yesterday morning that I was like, wait, don't stop what you're telling me, save it for the podcast?
I don't know. Do I always say I have to write it down? Except I don't write or read.